Well, hello everybody. Something showed up in the mail today. Let's see what it is. It is from Mr. Chaplin in Massachusetts. So, Mr. Chaplin, thank you. Oh, Christmas came early again. You know, glue troopers are the nicest people. Oh, wow. Oh, here we go. Here's a note. Hi, Max. Please enjoy these models. These are duplicates that I have. I also included a squadron book. Enjoy watching your videos. Mr. Chaplin. And I'm saying Mr. because you guys know for identity protection and everything, I don't put out the full names. You guys know that. But Mr. Chaplin, you know who you are, and thank you. So, start off with, from cyberhobby.com, a sea venom, something I definitely do not have in my collection. Well, I do now, and I have never built the Cyber Hobby kit, so of course that means I'm not only going to have to do a review of the build when I get to it, I'm going to have to learn something about Cyber Hobby and see if I can do a video on them. Oh, I now have a companion for my swordfish on floats, and this is the Airfix Fairy Swordfish Mark 1. And of course I'll be making this one with the wheels since I put the other one on floats. Those will look good together. And same scale, both 172. Something else that's lacking from my collection, a MiG-17. And this is Airfix. And that's an interesting camouflage scheme. That should be interesting to do. I wonder if how I'll model that. Model as in M-O-T-T-L-E, I think is how you spell, Mottle, to make that pattern. If I'll use a stencil on a spray gun, or just a really fine airbrush, or perhaps maybe even a Q-tip. And here's a book from Squadron on the KC-135, Stratotanker. And a quick note on the KC-135, guys. I've flown with a bunch of people who flew this. Oh, beautiful, look at the beautiful color photographs. And this is a hardback copy by Kenneth P. Katz, K-A-T-Z. I've flown with a lot of guys who've flown variations of the KC-135. And it's not only, I think the 135 airframe is the most prolific in the Air Force because it does so many different missions. It's got like a dozen different missions, everything from aerial refueler, and there's like 4 versions of that, 5 versions of that, all the way up to the Cobra Ball and the AWACS and all this other stuff. So the platform is used for so many missions that there's a lot of them in the Air Force. And somebody told me one time it was the 135-707-ish airframe was the most prolific in the Air Force. And I used to be based in Birmingham, where they would convert the KC-135s into the R models with the big fans on them. And you would see them torn down to they had the skin peeled off of them. It was really, they're basically building an almost new airplane using the skeleton and frame of the original. And yeah, there's your R models with the big fans on them. And They told me point blank it's an entirely different airplane. One guy I knew really well that owned a nice little 150 horsepower Cessna 172 who flew in the 89th, which is the presidential squadron, although he was flying their Gulfstream. And he was telling me that all these stories about flying the 135s. Surprisingly, you think this is actually a surprisingly dangerous mission, not only because of the close formation flying they do. There have been a lot of mishaps with 135s. They're trickier missions, but their spy missions, of course, are dangerous because of where they go. But one of the problems they had with these R models, with these big fans on them, is that they call them pods. And with the earlier models with the skinnier engines, you could bank the airplane over, and it wasn't too much of a too much of a problem. But with the bigger ones, you could scrape a pod real easy because they hung down so much lower, which kind of limited the airplane's banking ability on landing and stuff, which it gets into crosswinds and things like that. So even though they were a much more capable airplane, they had certain limitations on them. And there were, especially the early A models that were pretty underpowered, where they had, I believe, they had the water methanol injection to keep the engines cool so you could rate the power for takeoff. They were actually pretty marginal. I'm familiar with quite a few fatal mishaps. Of course, having so many of them in the Air Force, flying them up near these heavy weights and everything, and they're a critical asset. A lot of people kind of look at tankers and go, ooh, it's a tanker. I'm kind of like, dude, our Air Force could not function the way it does without tankers. The one reason they spend so much money on them is they're such a critical asset, because they're, some people call them force multipliers or range extenders or whatever you want, but without these bad boys, our Air Force would be a lot more short-legged than it is, especially where things like fighters and stuff are concerned. Incredibly important airplane, and that's why they invest so much money in them. So I didn't mean to run off on a tangent about tankers. It's just an airplane that never seems to get much love, and it's really a critical asset. So once again, Mr. Chaplin, I thank you very, very much, and Merry Christmas to all you guys, and we'll see you later. Mottle on.